Hi guys, welcome to class. My name is Brad, and today we're going to go over a how-to for down dog. Super fundamental pose, not the easiest pose in the book, but it's one that we kind of need to know if we're going to do flows. So, get something comfortable on, something you can move around in, even if you're cold like me, wear a sweater, and maybe grab a mat and join me. Nice and simple. All right guys, so let's get started with down dog. So, top tip number one, before we even start, is hand placement. And if you ever need breaks during this down dog, because super fun, we're doing one pose today. So I know that that's a bit challenging, but this is meant for you to learn. It's not meant to go, okay, let me have a lot of fun doing every single pose. I hope that you have fun learning something new here and that you feel some more ease, yes. But we're going to stay a little bit disciplined, something I don't like. But we all have to learn somewhere, myself included. Okay, so with down dog, it starts with the hands and the feet, of course. And so you really have to pay attention to both sides. But let's start with the hands to begin. Okay, first things first, I want you to reach your arm up towards the ceiling, both arms, and then actually try to lift them up, if you notice. Okay, and try to make sure your rib cage isn't moving here. But if you're going, what? Don't worry about that right now. Focus more on the hands pushing up and kind of sucking the stomach in lightly. And then release the shoulders down slightly. And then push the shoulders up again. And then down again. Okay? That's called elevation, but we're going to need that and this other thing called external rotation for the shoulders to be stable when you do down dog. And I've seen a lot of students do a lot of mistakes in down dog, and it's normal. It's not your fault. Oftentimes, we rush through down dog in a practice and expect everyone to know it. So take this slowly, watch this video multiple times until you get what you need. All right? So that's number one, shoulders up. Number two, fingers spread wide. Don't drastically spread them as wide as you can, but spreading them wide helps improve the surface area, helps improve the connection, and helps keep you more, let's say, stable, grounded. Any spiritual words? No. More stable, more grounded, okay? So, index fingers forward to give you that space for the shoulders. Shoulders elevated, okay? And this thing called external rotation, where the shoulders go away from you. So there's a very big thing that I see in down dog where people turn in, and that's also often a direct result of how they place their hands too. I don't want you to place your hands this far away, but normal, just slightly to where this index finger is fully straight, and then we should be good to go. Okay? Without further ado, let's get our hands down. Let's get into the dirt. Let's start, okay? Make sure the index fingers are forwards. Spread the fingers wide. Okay, tuck your toes back behind you. Make sure the knees are in line with the hips, and then shift your hips back. And as you do that, push into the ground. Not a lot, but just enough to go, okay, that's what it feels like. And then there's something very interesting that leads to external rotation, which is rotate the elbows a bit downwards, so the elbow pits, yes, they're called elbow pits, face upwards, all right? So, shift the hips back, rotate them, and then see if you can push into the hands to lift the knees up. And then from there, begin to lift the hips as high as they can go, and you should be in your variation of down dog, okay? That would be the hardest part of what we just talked about, all of those talks. So the idea now, number two, is hips high over heels down. This is more important. Keep the hips high over the heels down. But right now, before that, I want you to feel what it feels like in the arms. Can you push the hands into the ground even further away from you? Can you spread the fingers wide? Okay. Really push the ground away. Try to focus on this thing called external rotation, and the best way to say it is those things where the lower arm meets the upper arm, the elbow pit and the elbow, okay? So the elbow pit is like that little crease where you can bend the arm. The elbow, I think we all know what that is. But the elbow pit begins to rotate upwards. And that's when you can find this external rotation of the shoulders and push the ground away from you. Okay, take another breath in, please. and then just come down onto your knees. All right. That's tip number 1. It's a huge tip. It's got like 3 different things in it, but maybe it gives you a little bit of, okay, I've got a feeling for this. And this is my first video really doing fundamentals, so if it gets a bit long and extensive and excessive, I apologize. My point here is just to give you something that you can learn, okay? So all feedback is welcome. Number 2, we've got the hands now, okay? This is your focal point. Hips over heels is greater. So I like to write hips, if I'm writing this on a computer, greater than heels. Focus on lifting the hips higher rather than pushing the heels down, okay? So that's number 2. We just have 2 more after this. So first things first, check in with the hands. Make sure they're spread wide, okay? And again, tuck the toes, shift the hips back, rotate the elbow pits up, push the ground away from you. Then lift the knees, keep rotating up, okay? Keep the knees a bit bent and lift those hips as high as they can go. Almost like your chest is gonna touch, your thighs, but don't drop your chest so far down. Just take a deep breath in through your nose and out through the nose if you can as well. Second recommendation would also be to take a video of how you do this pose so you can watch personally how you do this. Okay. Now, if you need to come down, you can. Otherwise, just listen carefully. Try to keep the heels up or the hips up higher as you begin to bring the heels a bit down. But if you feel like your back or you're using your core muscles to do so, so if you feel like your back is rounding or if you feel like your core is adding some heat to it, is getting on fire, then that means that you need to bend the knees because you're doing too much. The body's not responding in the way we want it to. You want to lengthen the spine here, not round the spine, okay? So take another breath in and another breath out. And then come down onto your knees, okay? And let me just show you this real quick so you can see what I mean by a rounded spine versus a flat spine. That's super important. So what a lot of people do in this position to compensate, okay? So this is, let's say, a proper down dog, okay? This is also a proper down dog. If you look at my back, not how flexible my body is, but this is not a proper down dog. And that comes from rounding your back and not having enough length to be in the hamstrings or in the spine to be able to sustain the pose. And that's why it's important to have the hips higher over the heels down. Okay, so that's number 2. All right. Now, number 3, just about there, guys. Number 3 is the head. Okay, and what I'd like you to focus on with your head is dropping your head down rather than keeping it lifted and tensed. And as I make more of these videos, I think you'll notice that I say this often because I had a huge, let's say, problem with my practice when I started, where when I started doing half lifts and forward folds and other positions, I just lifted my head all the time. And you're tensing the neck, and you're just causing more tension in the neck and shoulders when we want to release tension there, especially in a yoga class. So, for this position, you're going to relax your neck, okay? And just a side note, I said we had 4 things to go over. I mixed just now the hips and heels with the rounded spine as 2 things in one. So this is actually our last one. I know I'm confusing. Sorry, guys. Okay, bring your hands forwards. Then from there, tuck your toes. Make sure the hands spread the fingers wide. Okay, shift the hips back. Rotate the elbow pits up. Push the ground away. Lift the hips. Okay, so we're into our down dog. Now, make sure the back is not rounded, right? Keep lifting the hips. Maybe you can straighten the legs a little bit more, but more important that the hips are up. And then, let's say, look at your hands, okay? When you look at your hands, can you feel the tension in your neck? That's exactly when I want you to relax your head and look more towards your toes, or if you want to do more of a traditional yoga practice, look towards your belly button. Really relax the head and push the ground away from you. Keep rotating the elbow pits upwards and find some breathing. Okay. Take 2 more breaths, just nice and slow. And 1 more. And then come all the way down onto your knees. Okay. Good. So I hope that that gives you a little bit more stability, a little bit more comfort, or a little bit more ease and confidence in your practice. Okay? So just to go over again, your like 4 tips that I turned into 3. Okay? Number 1, which is a lot right now. Spread the fingers, index finger forwards, not like this, but just straight forwards, not really turned in because that gives less space in the shoulders. Elevating the arm, so pushing into the hands when you push into the ground, and rotating the shoulder outwards. Number 2, hips higher than heels, with the hips going higher than the heels. Then you can begin to obviously straighten the legs, but that brings me to the point of the spine. Think of looking and taking videos of your spine where you're flat. Don't round. Flat spine. That's most important here, as best as you can, and especially the lower back. This is where we want to find a little bit of that release and of the tension there, okay? So that's why you bend the knees, and that's why you focus on hips higher over the heels. Hips over the importance of pushing the heels down. Last one, head. None of this, drop your head, okay? Simple, more not so simple. I'm excited to see what you think, but enjoy, and till next time, ciao for now.